Hi, everyone. I am Brian Moroz. I am out of the Google New York office. I've been there about 13 years now, so I've seen quite a bit of change in the company over the time. I work for a small team called the brand unit, and I work on an even smaller team in the brand unit called the zoo. The brand unit is a team that works with some of our largest brands who want to go a little bit outside, perhaps, of traditional advertising. They want to do something a little bigger with our technology, or they want to use our data in ways that maybe haven't been used before. The zoo, which is what I'm on, is kind of a micro creative team within that, and I'm a creative strategist on that team, which means my job is to look at a lot of Google's deep data and say, what are people actually doing? What are they asking? How are they interacting with each other? And usually we do this around a brand brief of some sort. We'll have a specific ask from a brand saying, we want to figure this out. But having done this for several years, and we actually had the luxury of working with a few anthropologists as well, we found some trends that I'm going to present to you today that are agnostic to any brand, to any company, any agency can use these, definitely not industry specific. So I'm going to present 6 of these things to you today. 6 is a lot, so I'm going to move quickly, so forgive me. I also talk fast, so if you need me to slow down, just kind of do this. But I do want to get through quite a bit today. And what we call this is Humanizing Digital. So I'm just going to jump right in, and the way that I'm going to structure this is I'll explain the insight, I'll show you some data to back that up, I'll show you some examples of how we've seen brands use it well, and then I'll give you an implication of what can I do with this myself. The first one we call Quicksilver Self. Quicksilver Self is really about mobile, right? Mobile puts the world's collective knowledge at our fingertips. We can get anything we want. Restaurant recommendations, you can get a date, you can get directions. Personal example, like I say, I'm in New York office. I came up here last night. I did not bother to do any research of where in Long Wharf, is that where we are? Should I go out to eat? I just got to the hotel and I typed in, good seafood restaurants nearby, found a place, went. I didn't even think about doing pre-research of where am I going to go to dinner. On that note of I was at the hotel, fun statistic, and this is 2016. Does this have a little laser? Oh, it does. This is 2016. Growth of near-me mobile queries made from a hotel property in the last year. That's the growth. And that growth is not going down. It's going up. So people are using their mobile technology to alter their life minute by minute. They're changing their plans. They're doing things when they want to do them rather than having to plan things out. 50% of consumers, and this is on the retail side for those of you who are in retail, who conducted a local search on their smartphone looking for a product like near them, looking on maps, et cetera, visited a store within a day to go purchase that product versus 34% who search on a computer or a tablet. So we see people are using these things, again, to change their life moment by moment. So the uptick on these, the near-me searches, these localized searches, they serve as examples of creating spontaneous moments, but there are other ways to create spontaneous moments as well. There's ways you can make your brand interesting and exciting. Everything doesn't have to lead directly to a purchase right away. Tinder, which I think you're all familiar with, a few years ago, fun story. You know what Tinder does, it uses geolocation to find people. They had their first match in Antarctica. So there is a research station in Antarctica with several scientists in it, and one of them, just as a joke, was like, oh, I wonder if there's, I'll pull up my Tinder profile, and it turns out there was a single who was there. They ended up matching. I don't know if they're still together, but that shows you the reach and power of these kind of like last minute, let's see what's happening in the world around me moments. MoMAR is an example. This is a kind of radical art group, and one of their biggest concerns is that the art world is very ossified and stagnant, and there's lots of gatekeepers as to like what is good art, what goes into a museum, et cetera. So what they did, and I believe this is actually still live, you can download an app, and when you go to the MoMA in New York, if you do that, several of the most famous paintings, I believe that's a Pollock in the background, if you hover their app over it, they show you a piece of art from a young artist who's trying to break through. So it's a way to change your day right off the bat, something that you didn't expect to happen, but it makes a big difference. Hotel Tonight, if you're not familiar with that, super useful app. If you're not from Boston and you decide, wow, it's really nice weather here, I'd like to actually explore the city, but I don't have a hotel, I'd like to extend my stay by one day, the hotel doesn't have a room. If you go to this app, it does a nice job for both partners. The hotels, they want their hotels completely filled every day, right? If you have empty rooms, it's just wasted money. If I want a last-minute hotel, like literally day of, that's really hard to find and can be very expensive. So what this does is the hotels offer a pretty deep discount, and like fancy hotels, Ace Hotels are on this, a lot of like really nice places. it found a way to say, what if someone at the last minute needs a hotel? How can we make these things work for everyone? Very nice example, I think. So implication number one, how can we tap into people's desire to explore in their hope for chance encounters, experiences, opportunities, and what can we help them discover about themselves, their world, and also your brand at this moment? So I don't know what exact brands you all work on, but there are ways to make something spontaneous and useful for people, make their day a little more interesting, a little more exciting. That's number one. Number two is placemaking. This is almost the opposite of Quicksilver Self. This is saying, what about, Quicksilver Self is all about change and I could go anywhere and do anything today. Placemaking is, places are special, physical places. I work in a very, very, very digital company, but really the world is made up of physical places, right? And we have a strong connection with those places. It's where our memories are connected, it's where our stories are shaped, and the mobile web, through imagery and information, can actually make this more meaningful. So, a little bit of data. This really amused me, this statistic. 40% of adult social media users say at least one of their accounts is set up to include location in their posts. And I'm like, that's what you think you have, but if you actually look at all of your apps, probably 99% of your social apps are including your location. They may not be showing that to you. But it's a nice thought. So location is on your phone. People know where you are. A number of mobile apps that leverage this contextual or location information is going to be at about 7.5 billion applications in 2019, meaning individual downloaded apps on phones. So this is just spreading like crazy. It's up from 3 billion, not even, in 2014. So your phone knows where you are. We all know this. What can you do with that? This is maybe my favorite example I've seen, and it's actually a few years old. There's a small village in rural Japan, and their entire economy was based on rice farming. And they saw year over year profits going down, 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 down. So someone came up with an idea, and they said, what if we use our fields and make art in the fields? Because there's different species of rice that grow in different colors at different parts of the aging process. This is one example. They had, like, I want to say like 16 or 18 fields. Some were cartoon characters, some were sports stars, and these are it's this huge rice field. And the idea wasn't just, let's make our rice fields look cool so people come visit. They said, we want people to actually buy the rice. So how do we do that? There's an app that you download, very simple. You choose the field you like. You snap a photo, and it gives you a discount. It immediately gives you what you'd like to purchase. You see the buy right there. And then you get rice from that field, from that artwork 3 to 4 months later, which makes it great for the farmers. They sold a lot more. It feels special when you receive the rice, which is really, it's just a staple. I mean, you could go to the grocery store and buy rice. But this rice, this is different. This is the rice I got from that art piece. And it got a little out of control. So 8,000 person village, 250,000 people visited. The Japanese government had to build a new train station with a platform so that everyone could take photos of this thing. That made a place special, but it also led to an actual retail interaction. Opposite example. I'm going to give you a lot of like happy examples, sad examples here today. Sad example, this is Panama. Panama, I have not been to, but apparently has a really bad infrastructure problem, in particular in the streets. They have terrible potholes, and they just weren't getting fixed. This came from Ogilvy, Panama. They built these devices. They're about the size of like a small pancake, about this thick, made of like sturdy rubber, and they just put them in the potholes. And every time a car ran over that thing, it tweeted at the actual like Department of Transportation, the people who were supposed to be fixing these problems, like these really kind of angry tweets. I feel horrible. I just caused a tire damage to an old lady's car. Kind of ageist. I don't know how they knew. But you see what you made me do. And it got so popular, it was featured all over the television programs there, and magically, all of these potholes started to get filled really, really quickly. So placemaking can be positive. Look at this beautiful art we did, and by the way, buy some, have some at your home. It could be a problem solver. There are terrible potholes. Let's do something digital in this physical space to improve the area. So that brings me to implication number 2. How can we connect our brand stories to events, to places, to landmarks in the customer's life? And no matter what your brand is, you could do something with a place, or you could make a place special for a short period of time. There's something that you can do. So what can you do to help customers document the places they go and the memories that they hold? So that's another provocation I have for you. Think about your brand. What could you do? What could you do in, for example, I worked with FedEx a while back. Most popular FedEx video on YouTube by a mile is nothing that FedEx created intentionally. It's someone posted, who I believe worked there. They have security camera footage during the holiday season, just the madness of like these, and it literally is like millions of boxes and these trucks, and it looks like a Tetris game, but being played out with like airplanes and trucks and boxes. People love that. So that's a place for FedEx. Can you do something cool? So they started doing tours of their warehouses, and you have to go at like midnight to 2 in the morning because you can't get in the way, and they fill out. So my colleagues went to them. I did not get to go. Number 3, fascination with the familiar. And this is one of my favorites because a lot of times I hear, oh, well, my brand isn't cool stuff. So Puma's cool. Like, just, that's done, you know? But if you're a dishwasher company or dish detergent company, maybe not as cool. But what can you do with that? So as we shoot, display, and juxtapose all these everyday moments, which people do all the time, as we'll see, you can look at them with a new perspective, this new point of view. We can make things fascinating that don't seem to be so. One example, statistically speaking, we've seen an almost 300% growth in food channel subscriptions, people subscribing to food channels on YouTube in the last 12 months. Everyone does their own spin on food content. Honestly, like, cooking is cooking. Like, unless you're watching a master chef at work, there's really not anything exciting intrinsically about cooking, but there's ways to make it really interesting. So this is Binging with Babish. Does anyone know that channel? A couple people nod their heads. It's niche, but also becoming incredibly popular. He actually just got a book deal. What he does is, he's not a chef, he just likes cooking. He takes television shows that have featured food on it and then tries to actually recreate the food, like the soup on Seinfeld or a sandwich from a movie. In this case, it's hard to read, but he's doing Ned Flanders' hot chocolate from the Simpsons movie, and he's like, how could you actually make this hot chocolate? Like, let's try to actually do it. So it's a fun way of taking something very simple, connecting it in a different way, and then it becomes exciting and interesting to people. And that, by the way, has 2.4 million views, and he's moving up all the time. This is an embarrassing statistic for me, and I'll explain why. Among internet users who posted an original video, at least on our platform, 45% uploaded a video of either a pet or an animal, like at the zoo or at the aquarium or what have you. And I thought that is an absurdly high number. And I realized literally one of the only videos I have ever personally posted to YouTube is a video of my cat, because my nieces and nephews live in Florida and they love Audrey. And they wanted to see Audrey. So I was like, damn, I'm one of them. About 60% of people, and we're not talking influencers, we're not talking, you know, professional content creators, we're talking about just people. They post things, everyday things. They post the family barbecue. They post the kids going to the beach. You know, these are not exciting, riveting videos, but people watch them, and it's their family that's watching them. But you can make it interesting. You can make it riveting. This is the granddaddy of them all. Has anyone seen the Blendtec stuff? Many of you have. If you have not, this is a, Blendtec does a channel that literally is just what will blend in our blenders. That's the channel. That's the entire, there's nothing more than that. Does anyone know the most famous example of what they blended? Yes, the iPhone. And by the way, the iPhone blended. It's actually a really fun video to watch. This has caused an enormous uptick in sales for them because these are $350, $400 blenders. A blender is a very boring, very familiar object. It's hard to convince someone who doesn't understand what these blenders are to buy one. But when you take a very familiar object and do something a little more interesting with it, like say, put an iPhone in it and see what happens, people get excited about it. They watch it and they end up buying the product. Slow-mo guys. Does anybody know slow-mo guys? Yeah, they're incredibly popular. This video, for example, this is not one of their most popular. It has 25 million views. These are a couple of guys who bought a super slow motion camera, very, very expensive. I don't know what the frame rate is, but it's like super, it's like for scientific research slow. And then they just do ridiculous things, and they show it. So what you're looking at here, that 25 million people decided to watch, is they took Jell-O, they made it into a ball mold, and they hit it with a tennis racket. Now, nothing about that should be exciting, but when you do it in really slow motion, it gets kind of interesting, right? So they're taking really boring stuff. Similar channel, the hydraulic press channel. Have you guys seen that? It's just people who have these like crazy hydraulic presses and they put things like bowling balls and like Barbie dolls and they just watch how they mush. Like, that shouldn't be interesting, but it is, and people love it. So no matter how boring a brand you may be working with, like quote unquote boring, there's opportunity. And I'm going to show you an example in a moment. This is third example. Scotch, you guys know blue painter's tape. Have you ever painted your apartment? It's not something that you think top of mind. You're not going to work being like, I wonder what's going on with blue painter's tape today. So what they did, not having a ton of sales, they said, well, what else could we do with our product? And so they hired multiple artists. I recommend you go check it out. This is one artist, Dominic Wilcox, made this beautiful flower sculpture and made a ton of them and like made this entire massive sculpture out of it. Another artist made these beautiful lamps just by crisscrossing it in these different patterns, and you put a little light bulb in it. And it was wildly successful for Scotch because what happened was these got viewed, people got into it, and some of the people who viewed it and shared it around were elementary school teachers and art teachers. And then suddenly, wait, this is a really cool, really inexpensive art and crafts product we can do for the kids. They had a huge spike for about 2 or 3 months of people buying this to do art with it, mostly with kids, because it's so easy, there's no cleanup, it costs 80 cents. They did not follow through past that as far as I know, but they could have done more. I think this is a really great example. I mentioned dish detergent earlier, and that is an example that I personally had experience with. So I was working with a very large CPG company that sells a lot of dish detergent, and I was talking to them about this idea. I was like, what can we do to make it like cool or interesting? And they said, Brian, no one cares about dish detergent. B, no one cares about their dishwasher until it breaks. No one goes around thinking about, what's my dishwasher up to today? I did my research, and I was very, very smug and pleased when I presented this video, which is some random person who got the idea to take a flashlight and a GoPro and stick it in his dishwasher. That was it. You can go watch it. This is the short version. This is the 4 minutes. He does the whole 30-minute if you want to get the full effect. You're looking at what it looks like. That's it. 9 million views. I mean, how much would you pay for 9 million views? That's a pretty reasonable rate of return for $0 there. 1,700 subscribers. That's what blows me away. The 9 million views I get, because I watched it, I was like, actually, I do kind of want to know what it looks like. Subscribing to the Dishwasher channel is a step too far for me, but not for 1,700 other people. So what's the implication here? How can you find the forgotten familiar with your brands, your products, and consumers' lives? I didn't show an example about this, but there's a lot of kind of banal things we do every day. We tie our shoes. We brush our teeth. We wash the dishes. How can we reveal the beauty or the intrinsic interesting things that are going on? Because everything, if you look deep enough, is at least a little bit fascinating. Number 4, energy exchange. Okay. So the gift of sharing happiness, that's what contributes to an energy exchange, right? It amplifies our own pleasure. We're happier when we know we've made our friends happier or our family happier. And that's the root, really, of a great deal of what gets shared online. It's the thing that I know is going to make my friend laugh, the thing that I know my friend loves and is really into. I'm sharing it because I want to get this energy between us and say, hey, I like you, I want to share something with you. 44% of Facebook users like content posted by their friends at least once a day. Again, I think that's ridiculously low because it's self-reported, with 30% doing it several times a day. I had to give you some data, but I like this quote much better than I like the data. The like is the wordless nod of support in a loud room. It is the easiest of yeses, I agrees, and me too. And I'm going to give you an example of what that quote means, at least in my mind. How long does it take you to like an Instagram photo? Nothing. It's like a zero input. Like I did it this morning before this started. I'm going through I'm like, oh, cute, okay, nice. But when you post an Instagram picture and you get 4 likes versus you get 63 likes, that emotionally feels different. And it shouldn't. I mean, it's literally just your friend going, that's it, I just did it. That was the entire effort it took. But it does, it makes a difference because there is this energy, right? Brief aside, because I get asked this a lot when I do these types of presentations, so I'm just throwing this in there. What do we see, at least YouTube-wise, most shared? Obviously, things that are very visual, clearly. Things that are surprising. People love to share something that has a surprise in it. You're like, whoa. Something that shows social currency. Like, hey, I'm really good at this. Or I'm on this amazing vacation. Those kinds of like currency-related things people will obviously push out. Self-definition. This is who I am, and I want other people to understand that about me. And then finally, bonding. Hey, you and I both like this thing. I'm sending this to you just to confirm that bond, that we both happen to like that. So those are the types of content that we see shared the most on our platforms. This may be wildly different on a Twitter or for the New York Times, But for us, that's what we find. And this is, in fact, from the New York Times, which is why I brought them up. I was very surprised by this, but this is fairly recent data from them. This is not from 10 years ago. What they considered awe-inspiring articles were 30% more likely to make their most emailed list. Sadder articles were actually 16% less likely. And the New York Times, by the way, love Google. New York Times has really cool data sets. You should explore them. They give out quite a bit of their data. It's really fascinating. So I guess it depends on your perspective if this is awe-inspiring or sad. OK. So here we're going to watch a video. Can we play that video? Make sure there's sound. OK. Are you a little happier than you were 30 seconds ago? I was trying to share some energy with you. Like, if you're not, you should get yourself checked, because that's amazing. I wish that I could be as happy as Mike these days. But it's great, right? Would you share that clip with a friend, potentially? Especially a friend who's like having a bummer of a day? Yes, you would. Why? Because energy. I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to see smiles in the room. It made me feel good to see smiles in the room. Oop. Am I out of range? Oh, you just have to click on that. Yeah, sorry. There we go. Now, there's a whole other side of this. I said I'm going to give you happy versions and maybe more complicated versions. This is the more complicated version. And I actually love this because I like dark humor quite a bit. And this is Denny's. It is their most shared and most liked post of all time. It says zoom in on the syrup. And obviously, you all can't see from there. I'm going to have to read to you the last panel because it's hard to see. But if you zoom in on the syrup, what you see is, number one, it says, look at the lower left corner. If we go back, you see the lower left corner, there's a little bit of text there. Now look at the lower right corner. Now look at the upper left corner. Now look in the butter. And the butter says to you, has this distracted you from an overwhelming existential dread? LOL. And people were like, what is going on, Denny's? And they loved it. It's so not the Denny's message. Denny's is like, family time, come in, we have great pancakes. They tried something weird, and it worked out beautifully. And people shared the hell out of this because it's, again, an energy exchange. What does that go back to? That goes back to the surprise, right? It's visual content, and it's surprising content. Coca-Cola, and just in the interest of time, we don't have to play this video. It's fine. I'll just speak to it. This is actually out of Brazil. Should we do it? OK, we'll play it. It's a minute.
This is the Coca-Cola Thanks Box. A Coke machine that doesn't work like an ordinary Coke machine. You don't buy a Coke to drink it. You buy a Coke to send off to that special person that deserves a special thank you this year. It's easy. You simply place the Christmas Coke bottle into the machine, and it invites you to record a video thanking whomever you wish. The person will receive the video together with the bottle. The bottle transforms itself into a symbol of gratitude and will arrive to the designated person. Depending on where the person is located, the bottle will arrive as a voucher or at the doorsteps of their house, and the video will be shared on the social media of their choice. And this is how this amazing machine works. 10 Coca-Cola Thanks Boxes were produced and sent to 4 different states. This Christmas, say thank you with a Coke.
If you could click on that slide again, that should help me out here. So before we get to the implication, feel free to read ahead. But Coca-Cola, like no one has problem finding a bottle of Coke. No one is like, oh man, if only I could get a Coke today, but I can't. You could go anywhere and buy that. The product is irrelevant in this case. This is the message from Coca-Cola and the message from your friend, right? You get and it makes it that bottle special and interesting as you get this video from your friend, possibly in a totally different state, being like, hey, I sent this to you, I love you, what have you. Coca-Cola did a really good job there of saying, how can we allow energy exchange, even though our product is essentially a commodity? So, question for you, thinking of your brands, how can we create content that shares human energy, communicates excitement, happiness, vivacity, so that people are going to want to share that? And it can be an object. Send an actual bottle of Coke. It can be video content. It can be any type of thing where I'm giving something to someone else because I like them. Can we measure success via smiles, not just message recall? No, we can't. We need to sell products too, right? But it's nice to have the smiles with the sales. And also, it tends to boost the sales. So keep that in mind. OK. On to number 5, cooperation and collaborations. And this one is, I think, I love this one, and I try to push brands to do this when I can. We're hardwired to want to cooperate. And what I mean when I say that is if you're walking behind someone on the sidewalk and they hit a curb and fall over, like your first instinct is very likely to go help that person up, right? Like that, people just want to help each other out generally, unless you give them a reason not to. Digital, of course, has made this collaboration seamless, borderless, effortless. We can do these things anywhere, anytime. We could coordinate neighborhood events, organize political movements. We can make a bake sale happen. There's so many things we can do so easily now. Quick stat, there's closing in on 200 crowdfunding platforms worldwide. Last year, I thought this number was pretty shocking. $34 billion was raised by crowdfunding. That's both for philanthropic things as well as things like Kickstarter, which is essentially saying, hey, let's collaborate to make a product happen because I can't afford to do it myself. 34 billion is a big number. And 71% of millennials have fundraised for a nonprofit online. And I bet a lot of you in the room today have either donated to someone's fundraising online or done your own thing. I know internally at Google, many times a month, people are like, hey, I've got this cause. Can anyone help kick in? And I think it's a wonderful thing. It's so easy. It's so easy to just say, 20 bucks? Yeah, sure. Whereas that message would never get out without digital technology. From our side, one of the things that we note in a non-productized way are G Suite products. So that's docs, spreadsheets, et cetera, slides. Almost 80% of university students in the US use Google Docs for group products, and I have a good friend who is one of the head marketing people for the kind of university age user. And she was saying the reason that it works so well is because college students today are so time constrained and are basically like going nuts. I'm really glad I went to college a long time ago. It sounds really intense. And it's very hard to get, let's say 5 people on a project in a room, for 2 hours at a time. That's just not going to happen. But being able to digitally collaborate, suddenly it makes it really easy, right? 2 trillion is the number of files stored in Google Drive as of last year. They just released that number. I can't even fathom that number. That's insane to me. So people like to collaborate. Let's look at some brand examples. And I tried to make brand examples that were kind of digital and physical in some cases. So this is one. P.F. Chang's, which you're probably familiar with, large chain. In their larger stores, especially in the more suburban locations, they have this giant horse out front. And that's kind of their, that's how you know it's a P.F. Chang's. And it's white. During National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they created a hashtag, PF Chang's Pink. And they said, come out and please help us paint the horses. We want to paint every horse pink. And people did. And they said, please share it on social media. Every meal or all of our revenue that we're taking in for this month, we're going to donate 10% or whatever it was. And please spread the word. They had, in the first, basically week, first 8 days, saw a 1,300% bump in user-generated content of people going out and painting the thing and sharing it around and sharing with other people. This is a nice combo, the reason I use this example too, because this is also placemaking, right? This is placemaking and collaboration. I have to physically go to the place to do it, but then I want to share it out, and I want to get people to come and help me with it. Smile with Lay's. This is something that my broader team worked on a little bit. Lay's had a campaign where if you buy a bag, put the smile up and take a photo, they would, and share it, they would donate $1 to a fund for children who need cleft lip surgery. But then they also expanded it, and they're like, well, that's kind of a lot of labor to ask a consumer who's buying potato chips to do. Yes, people did that, but they said, how can we do it more readily? And it's on the actual ad unit itself, you could enable your camera, and it had the bag there, and you just kind of move your face. And then you could share that with your friends, and if your friends did it, each time it was $1 goes to this fund. So it was a nice way to make people feel like they're working together. It's kind of silly, but it's also doing something good. And that brings me back to, of course, the classic example of the Ice Bucket Challenge, which is something silly, but shareable, and you could join me, and then we're doing something good together. And then the last example, and this is just one that I wasn't even aware of until I started doing research for this. On YouTube, if you are a content creator, you can enable open translations. And this is a woman who does really fun, she's a scientist, she's a PhD. She has really funny but very science-based videos. So it's great for like high school kids who are thinking about getting into science. She's awesome. And she had a large global following, but only speaks English. And she had all these people reach out saying, do you mind if I closed caption your video in my language? And now she's in, I think, 14 languages. And she actually did a video just saying, like, thank you to all of my translators. It means so much to me. So again, just a way, how can you, well, let's just look at the implication, shall we? How can we encourage users to collaborate, right? Can we present a challenge that's best solved with others? And can you create a cooperative community in support of our brand? And I should actually reword that. Can the brand create a cooperative community in support of something greater than themselves? I think is a better way to phrase that. And I don't think that there's a brand out there that can't come up with a cause or something cool or something valuable to a community that they could say, hey, I want to put our flag here. This is one of the things our brand stands for. And I'm asking you, users, I'm asking you, consumers, can you come help us do this? And this makes consumers feel empowered, it makes them feel good, gives a big halo to your brand, and it also happens to do something good for the world at the same time. And it can be as easy or as complicated as you want it to be. So that's that. Final insight, cruising through. Finding progress, and this is one that we've seen for years now, on YouTube in particular. So we're continually in pursuit of excellence, and today it's, I think, more accessible than it's been via digital content, right? That could be your personal trainer, master apprenticeship, it could be a private tutor, and it puts that progress within reach regardless of physical location, which is key, socioeconomic status, background, expertise. If you want to get a degree in physics at this point, you can. If you want to learn to be a woodworker, you can do that. If you don't know how to swaddle an infant, you can learn to do that. And people are definitely taking advantage of that. We've seen how-to searches on YouTube growing 70% year over year, and that's a big number, because we get a lot of searches on YouTube. So it's people really digging in. Over 100 million hours worth of content was watched in North America on how-to. 100 million hours is a lot of hours. 67% of millennials, at least that we talk to, agree that you can find a YouTube video on anything you want to learn, and I am here to tell you that it's pretty close to true. We tried out some real weird searches, and you name it, give it a shot. You will find someone with like a really badly filmed iPhone photo of showing you how to do whatever it is. How many of you have actually used YouTube for or video content to learn something, how to? Bing it, there you go. Like almost everybody, right? I certainly have. And if you take nothing away from this presentation, if this presentation was useless to you, and you were like, that was a huge waste of my time, and he ran over, this will make it worth all of your time, I promise you. Go look up this video. This one doesn't actually play. This is homework. How to fix every zipper issue. It is 1 minute and 30 seconds long. You will take it with you for the rest of your life. You'll be a hero to your friends. I'll just give you a little spoiler. If you take a normal pencil, like a graphite pencil, and the zipper stuck, and you rub it on the little piece there, that's a dry lubricant apparently, and it fixes it. I already used it twice. You can learn almost anything, from very, very basic to very, very complex things. So how do brands actually do something with this? This example is one of my favorites for a couple reasons. Have you all seen these types of videos where it's just the cooking thing and it's just the hands and it's the light overhead and there's music, there's no sound, it just says like graham cracker 2, and then it shows them mixing. Have we all seen these? All right, if you haven't, I can make sure that you do. It's a very simple video type. It's so popular and so common now that there are entire channels devoted to mocking it and to doing things where the guy just like smashes the egg with the hand and is like throwing a brick in there. That's how popular it is. They get millions and millions and tens of millions and 20s of millions of views. This is actually a very low viewed one at a mere million. The company that does almost all of these is a company called Tasty. Does anybody know who owns Tasty? BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed really doesn't have much of a right to be in this space. You know who should be in this space? Whole Foods should have been in this space. Wusthof Knives could have been in this space. Betty Crocker could have been in this space. None of them actually took the jump to say, how can I help consumers learn things and do things with my products in a really easy, accessible way. So BuzzFeed, who were very good at knowing how people like to do things on the internet, said, hell, food's a big category. Everybody cooks. Everybody has to eat. Let's just start doing these things, and did a very good job. So, implication number 6. How can we leverage our marketing to provide inspiration and information that actually helps people improve? Can you capitalize on people's desire to improve and actually help them achieve their goals? So don't be the Whole Foods to your competitors' Tasty. Be the Tasty. Be the people who say, what do I think my consumers might want to learn? What can I do to help them learn it, to help them do it? So, in summary, we talked about 6 things. I know I moved very quickly, but let's just review briefly. Quicksilver Self. Can you help your users or your customers change their day on a whim? Can you do something really cool for them where it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that to happen today, and that brand helped me do that? I'll give you another example of that. Converse does that a lot with like pop-up concerts. That's very simple idea. Placemaking. How can you take physical places and make them magical, but also digital and shareable? How can you do something really cool with a physical place that gets people to go there because it's so cool to participate? Another example of that, currently in New York, there's the Museum of Ice Cream, which is, if you look that up, it's like the tickets, the lines are down the street, they sell it every day. It's basically an Instagram museum. Like you just go in and it's built for Instagram photos. I mean, and then you taste like 6 ice creams at the end. The ice cream is very much an afterthought. Fascinating, familiar. Again, no matter what your brand is, whatever you're working on, what about it is really fascinating? Is it the manufacturing process? Is it the way that it gets used? There's something cool there, I promise. Energy exchange, how can you make content that people want to share because it makes people happy? Or weirds them out, a la Denny's. Cooperation and collaboration, what can your brand do to bring people together to do something a little bigger than what any individual could do? And finding progress, teach people something. So that's it, thank you guys.
Good one, Brian. It's so cool, so cool. I love how you wrapped it up with things we can take away. Quick question, why 6?
We actually have like 22, but I picked the 6 that I thought would be most germane to a broader audience, because we have some of the ones that we have are very industry specific.
Yeah.
So these 6 are the ones that I can't imagine any brand that couldn't do something with it.
Cool, nice. Before I pass on to the floor, I have one question for myself. I've always wanted to find ways to work with Google. Mm-hmm. And I love how you show how you guys work creatively. Mm-hmm. And when I say I always want to find ways to work with Google, it was more not only, hey, let's make sure my campaign had AdWords and all of that, right? How do you go about actually working with you guys as a co-creator?
Right. So for my team, for the brand unit, the way it works is the sales teams who actually work with these large brands will spec out briefs and say, that actually could be bigger than it is. Or the client or agency themselves will say, we want to do something bigger. Then they go through a very painful process of dealing with our operations team, and then they select the things that go through along with the creative director. So it really is essentially like a brief-in process, and then we go through and say, okay, well, what do we think we can actually do good work on? It's not, oh, that brand's not big enough, or that it's just, that's maybe not the right, maybe that's more of a Facebook thing. But for us, we try to look at what our technology and what our platforms can do in a way that's like a little bit bigger than day to day.
The reason why I ask is because I was trying to understand, like, how do you find those case studies? I assume you just don't Google them, right?
No.
Okay. That's good. But then also, what I was kind of puzzled in my head is, how do you, like, and when I look at those examples, I'm like, yeah, cool. But what is the role that Google plays there? Like, what's the role of the product Google?
Google was not in all of those by any means.
Okay.
These are just the behaviors that we see, and we've seen different ways that people have, like the tweeting pothole has nothing to do with us. It's just they took these ideas that we've seen successfully done by brands with us, but also with other places. So yeah, not all of those examples were Google by any means.
So if we're to take an example that you guys really collaborated and co-created,
sure.
How do you manage to make sure that the product is actually a center, a pivotal piece of the creative?
Meaning, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Because what I'm trying, like, point blank, what's in for Google to co-create with other brands?
Okay, then the answer to that is we expect you to do a huge media spend with us to make sure that this goes into the broader internet. It's very, very much big.
I see.
We don't have like a quota, where it's if you don't spend this, we're not going to work with you. But there's definitely a range where like the media spend has to be somewhere here. Great. Yes, that's our rationale for spending resources on that.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, I just want to open to the floor now. Questions? Right here. Just get the mic. Yeah.
Oh, they're recording.
Can I ask you a favor? I forgot to ask in the morning. Can you just introduce your name so he gets it? We get you on audio so we can tag you on the Google search, and later you get a lot of hits on your LinkedIn page.
Happy to. My name's Lou Sabag.
Sorry, Monster.
I come from the agency side, and like the Zmod theory of Google is great. I followed that for years, and it's almost getting dated to the content that's there.
I do agree.
You've connected a bunch more dots here that are part of that pathway. Has it gone any further? Are there any other places we can tap into more info around that?
Yeah, the Zmod piece was a guy, Jim Lisinski ran that. He has left to become a dean of a university, I believe. I'll actually have to check, and I can definitely get your information, and I'll find out like what our, that's like on our marketing side and our Think with Google side. That would be the one place to go is Think with Google, which you probably know, yeah. But I'll check in. I don't know if that we have anything particularly like hot off the presses, but after Cannes, I think there might be some things. Yeah.
Did you just get back from Cannes?
No, I didn't go to Cannes.
Bummer. I've never been. Any other question? No.
Clear and easy. All right,
really?
guys.
Really? Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No.
No? Okay, thank you so much, Ryan.
My pleasure, man.